of temperature change that lead to the soup that gave the force to these hurricanes, to the lack of maintenance in the infrastructure, to the lack of renewable energy that stopped us from having alternatives, to our power generation, all of those things were man-made. So in this case, after years of colonial rule, where the U.S. and local elites enriched themselves at the cost of Puerto Rican workers, the island's infrastructure was primed for this disaster. In this case, to maintain the research and an overpriced, unelected, imposed fiscal oversight board that imposed draconian austerity measures that led to the loss of water, the loss of energy, the collapse of our economic system, our food system, our school system is collapsing, over 50 deaths that have been confirmed, more hundreds were burned without being able to be certified and not being able to be adjudicated to Maria's impact. So, while Trump threw paper towels at us, we took machetes in hand and we opened up the spaces, collective spaces like El Llamado, and we took up our long-standing traditions of mutual help. But it's not only effective to address the results of climate change, not just talking about just transition anymore. How do we recover in the now the effects that climate change is having, the lives it is taking today, the lives it took last month, the month before, the lives it's going to ruin in the coming months? How do we address that? We need to recognize the first cause of everything, and that is the systemic and systematic racism that imposes on our oppressed bodies the results and the impacts of climate change. Secondly, we demand that those small local elites and Trump cronies and donors eliminate the Puerto Rico debt. We want to trade, we want to heal, and we want to work with our sister islands. So we demand an end to the colonial rule and the Jones Act that prohibits us from sharing with our sister islands. We want control over our territories again, and we want to heal with ourselves again. We are not lazy. We are not waiting for the jobs, like Trump said, waiting for the handouts. We have taken it upon ourselves to rebuild our country, to rebuild our soil. And not only that, we are offering all of you the solutions to be able to get out of this place, to be able to recover when it hits you too, and to recover together. One of the things we're saying is that we propose a just transition, just recuperation, so that we all know petroleum, fossil fuel emissions are the cause of this. No false solutions. We need to leave it on the ground. We need to stop now our fossil fuel addiction, and our most important tool is our culture, our traditions, and agroecology. Being able to work and subsidize, give money, not to Monsanto, not to the biotech, not to climate smart agriculture. We need to give that money to the people that are cooling the planet and feeding our children healthy food. Lastly, we want to tell the U.S. government that we demand now for the lives lost and the lives ruined, we demand reparations. To Trump, we say, you follow our example or you get out of our way. Because we're going to keep walking, and we're going to keep walking with all those countries, leaders, COP23, all the other grassroots movements that are here with us, that are smart enough to understand the problem, and that are brave enough to embrace how to implement the solution. Vamos a retomar este planeta para todas las culturas ancestrales. Gracias.
I rode on the train with her here, and I was like in tears at the end of that. I was like, damn, this woman is inspiring. Thank you very much for representing your community and the work that you're doing, Katya. Before I want to, I introduce our next amazing speakers coming up. I wanted to share that It Takes Roots delegation and the U.S. People's delegation don't rise to the cause to demand action on climate because of the exceptionalism of the United States. We rise because of the United States' exceptional ability to colonize lands, our bodies, and air, to pollute our earth, and to promote capitalism as a way to solve climate change. We rise to stand in resistance to these acts of colonization, and as indigenous peoples, we fully understand the implications of what is being promoted and we push back against these false solutions. And I want to just put that out there, that this is something real to our peoples. Whether you're in the island nations, or your forest-dependent nations, or ocean-dependent, or river-dependent, or wherever you may be, we're all in it together. And that thing that unifies us all, whether it's the water or the air, is the most sacred thing of all. I want to introduce, thank you. Our next speakers is Milan and Kathy of the Pacific Climate Warriors, some amazing poets, spoken artists from the Marshall Islands. So give a round of applause for our speakers here. Oh, microphone. We need the mic. Go introduce yourself, and then we'll bring them up.
Okay, yeah. My name is Kathy Titinel, and I'm from the Marshall Islands. This is my cousin Milan Loya, also from the Marshall Islands, and we're with the 350 Pacific Climate Warriors. Hello? Yeah. So our islands are located in the northern Pacific region in the area known as Micronesia. We are one of the low-lying atoll nations that are on the front lines of climate change. We're only 2 meters above sea level. And so our island is one of those that are set to disappear with the rising sea level. We also have a relationship with the U.S. in that after World War II, the U.S. tested over 60 nuclear weapons on our islands, leaving most of our islands uninhabitable, irradiated, and leaving us with cancers, which resulted in a relationship with the U.S. through a treaty called the Compact of Free Association that allows us travel back and forth to the U.S. So there's quite a few Marshallese people living in the U.S. right now, and that's why we were compelled to speak out today.
You can tell we're Pacific Islanders. We don't know how to use those clip-on mics or stand behind a podium and speak. But in our language we say Yahweh. It's a greeting. So Yahweh, everybody. Yahweh from 350.org, 350 Pacific, and particularly our Pacific Climate Warrior family. Question. Has anybody here been to the Pacific ever? Raise your hand. Oh, good amount. Has anybody ever been to the Marshall Islands? A couple. Okay. All right, great. So that gives me the opportunity to share with you a unique part of our Marshallese culture. One of the most unique things about the Marshall Islands is that we have amongst the best weavers ever in the world. So this is what we call a jaguir. Jaguir is a finely woven mat. And this particular jaguir it was woven by yours truly. It took me about 5 weeks to weave this, and the reason why I got into weaving is because it gives me an opportunity not just to talk about saving our islands and protecting our language and our culture, but to actually do something about it. And weaving is one of those ways. It gives me an opportunity to absorb all this indigenous knowledge from our mothers back home and pass it on to future generations, to my children, to my future children, future grandchildren, whoever wants to learn the art of weaving. So I'm just gonna pass this around if you want to take a look at it closely. If you have the strong urge just to roll it up and run away with it because it's so awesome, remember I have a group of Pacific Climate Warriors here. They can make their
The weaving is actually one of the traditions that are threatened by climate change, which is why we wanted to showcase and highlight Milan's talent with it.
Yeah, is it picture? So I wanted to show this picture not because it's a picture of myself, but because it showcases some of the work that we do back home, some of the beautiful artifacts that we have. So the necklace that I wear is something that one of our chiefs designed and had our women put together. The nered that I wear, so it's bigger than the jaguir. It's called a nered. It's what our women back home wore a long time ago. We don't wear that obviously nowadays, but this is what our women back home used to wear. And of course, weaving lace is one of those important things, and also building canoes. we're amongst some of the best navigators in the Pacific, so we wanted to showcase a little bit of what's unique about the Marshalls and the Pacific as a whole.
And now I'm going to close our couple minutes by sharing a poem that I wrote about that connects the threats of butterflies and bees and disappearing islands. This is called Butterfly Thief. In middle school, I was a butterfly thief. I stole caterpillars rolled into cocoons from the bushes outside our classrooms. I nestled them into leaves on top of my desk across from the bunk bed, and a few weeks later, I woke to a morning light of trembling butterflies. I read recently that 40% of pollinator species, this includes butterflies and bees, are facing extinction. One of the key causes, climate change. Unusually warm winters force plants to shift their schedules so that when a bee comes out of hibernation, the flowers it normally feeds on has already bloomed and died. I came across a cartoon that showed a bumblebee cute, tubby, and smiling with a little cartoon bubble above its head that read, "If we die, we're taking you with us." I looked at that and thought, might as well put a Marshallese face over that bumblebee. Because if our island drowns out due to the rising sea level, just who do you think will be next? I'm taking you with me. Another contributing factor to the decline of bees and butterflies are pesticides. For bees, the pesticides cloud their vision so that they lose their way and die before they reach their home. How many of us will die before we get to go home? We'll take a boat to an island that was once whole, now reduced to sand and stone. Some stories say our ancestors came from volcano stone, a basalt rock goddess rooted in reef. Today I keep a basalt rock on my bookshelf. What tokens of our land shall we, will we store inside ourselves, inside our honeycomb of chest bones, the buzzing of a shore long gone? I'm taking you with me. A few months ago, my newsfeed erupted with the announcement that former CEO of ExxonMobil, Rex Tillerson, was named Secretary of State by U.S. President Donald Trump. ExxonMobil knew of climate change since 1981, but decided to fund climate deniers for the next 27 years. So whose colony is it collapsing today? Is it really just the bees, or is it also the human race funding our world to be washed into the sea? Trust, I'm taking you with me. A few years ago, my cousin and I took a boat to Kalaland Island, where a man took my hand and swears he was waiting for me. He points to an island that a few years ago was lush, full of pandanus trees and coconut trees. He says, what's dead is dead. You can't save this one, but you gotta save the others. The Prime Minister of Tuvalu was quoted as saying, if you save Tuvalu, you save the world. But what if we don't save Tuvalu? What if bees and butterflies become extinct? What if our islands don't survive? Just who do you think will be next? I'm taking you with me. I'm taking you with me. I'm taking you with me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy and Milan. I'm humbled. Okay. Wow. That was extremely, extremely powerful. Thank you so much for sharing your stories and that art and culture with us. I want people to actually take a minute to not just listen passively to what we're hearing, but to actually engage with it and engage with each other with it. So I would love for everyone to turn to two people next to you. And if you don't know them, share your name and where you're coming from. And for the next few minutes, I would love for people to share about a moment that moved you in some way after listening to one of our speakers, and how it might relate to an experience that you've had in your personal life. That's an offering, but mostly we just want you to engage with other people on what you've heard so far. And we'll call you back in a few minutes.